What's up, guys? The Faruqi Bros here, back with another podcast, our second podcast of 2025. And today we're going to be doing a couple of topics, starting with the film review, going down one of a controversial topic with one of the Best Picture nominations, and then we're also going to talk about the legend David Lynch and some of our favorite films from him. He passed away this week, so let's get right into it. I do want to start with the a remake that is also kind of gaining some controversy. So I want to discuss everyone's thoughts on it, and that's going to be Wolfman. This is a remake of a classic Universal Studios monster movie, but there's a bit of a twist to it, and it's been out for I think a few days now, so I think we can get into it with full spoilers. But basically, for me, this movie is interesting. You know, I've talked about it in our last podcast about how I'm not the biggest horror guy, and that still kind of sits true. But there is a sense of almost like a horror renaissance that's happening this year and last year that I think is worth kind of looking at. And I feel like the Wolfman's kind of part of that at a smaller scale. You know, it's like a fun, modernized take on the classic story. It's overall, you know, good atmosphere, some interesting jump scares. There's, you know, an okay emotional score. You know, my main issues is that it's very by the numbers from a narrative perspective. And I think one of the actors, well, my name is just completely killing me. Maybe Ziana, you know, what's the main girl's name in the movie? The woman, the mom. Yeah, well, she's an actress.
I
That's
don't know.
true.
Yeah, she's gonna be Silver Surfer also in
Yeah,
Fantastic.
let me just pull up the cast. Yeah, Julia Garner. Yeah, so for me, Julia Garner, she was a little like unbelievable in her role for some reason. Like I couldn't picture her as the mom slash wife of the movie. But you know, I will give some props to Christopher Abbott, who played the main character, who was going to become the proverbial Wolfman, and I think he did a great job. I did hear that originally this role was offered to Ryan Gosling, and he turned it down. And now they gave it to this guy. But actually, honestly, this guy's a better fit for kind of what this movie was trying to be. But overall, you know, is it breaking the mold? Is it trying to do something unheard of? Probably not. They did twist the lore of Wolfman a bit, which is controversial because a lot of people are like, "Hey, this is something that's been established for like over 100 years in different mediums throughout different countries, different cultures. They all have their version of the Wolfman. This time around, he's less of a wolf. He's more almost like a disease of some kind that gives him characteristics of a wolf, but can't get that. I gotta do my onomatopoeias. Gotta get my voice going. But it's still very different. So I feel like it's gonna get people who are very big enthusiasts of old school horror. They're gonna get a little like turned off by it, especially the final look of the Wolfman. And Zan, I'll get your points on it. He doesn't really look like a wolf that much to me, but I do think a lot of themes do travel through. So I'll give it +1 for a thrilling pace. I think the score is pretty good. I think the sound design is probably the best part of the movie. Like when there's bones crunching, when there's things breaking, when there's teeth falling out, you feel that through the sound design. So I'll give the most credit there. But I do think acting for the most part up and down, and you know it's not that scary honestly, but it's overall fine. So I think it's a decent time. I end up giving it 3.5 out of 5. I do recommend it if you're a horror fan. If you're not a horror fan, it's just good for like a vibey time. But I wouldn't consider it a must watch of 2025. Probably not. But that's kind of where I'm sitting on it. Zian, I'm going to pass it on to you. What did you think about Wolfman?
I also wouldn't consider it a must-watch. It is kind of like in that mid-tier 3 to 3.5 range, and I ended up giving it 3.5 as well. I think all the notes you kind of hit on were right. The sound design was good. The lighting, I know some people complain that sometimes too dark, or based on what format you see in the movie in, but I think the lighting and the sound design did a great job kind of enhancing that thriller aspect of it, because it's categorized horror, but most of the horror really just comes from the jump scares of it. It's not really a horror movie in any other way, in my opinion. Even the designs aren't really scary, so the horror just comes from kind of the sound popping and making you something coming onto the screen, so kind of make you jump in that way, which I think they did a good job from. I know people next to me in the crowd were like flying out of their seat in every single jump scare, so for people who aren't really used to that, it's probably a good experience for them. Otherwise, yeah, the acting was solid from the main actor, and the side cast, the wife and the daughter, were just okay. They weren't really that great, but I guess they had just enough of a focus where there was an emotional through line that kind of connects them, but it was kind of shallow. But I guess that's not the point of the movie. The point is just to be like a generic by the book horror movie, which is clearly what it was. It didn't break the mold in any way. And that kind of hurts it and helps it both simultaneously, because you kind of know what you're expecting, but you don't come out saying, oh, this really pushed the boundaries of what I want for a monster horror movie or anything like that. So it was kind of just baseline generic monster movie type of film. And for what it was, it did what it needed to. So that's why I kind of landed with that 3.5 score.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what people think about the movie overall. I'm kind of feeling it might be falling into forgetfulness, the forgotten movies of 25, which a lot of early movies do. I mean, this is coming out at a time where there's the award seasons in full force, so a lot of people are still focusing on 2024 movies. I do think the fires in LA and California, at a much bigger scale, are affecting a lot of things, but movies which are a much small part of it are definitely being affected. So people just aren't like, there's not enough buzz around this movie. But I was actually surprised that I came out of it liking it just enough, 3.5. But surprisingly, our contemporaries, other critics, are kind of blasting this movie. I mean, I think it's Rotten Tomatoes. I don't know if the score went up since then, but last time I checked, it was in the high 50s. So I guess people aren't that into it. But let's see how it goes and check it out if you want. So from there, I want to talk about a 2024 movie. I mean, it popped up on, I think, Samir's top 10 of the year. Did it? Brutalist. And I want to discuss this movie because there is something new that popped up recently. I think the easiest way to discuss it would actually be to share my screen and get this new interview to credit. So this comes from a publication called Red Shark, and they actually interviewed the editor of The Brutalist. His name is David Jonsko. So basically, Jonsko's talking about multiple aspects of this movie, from how he edited it to why they used VistaVision as their filming style, shot horizontally, so on and so forth. But the thing that everyone is talking about, and I'll bring it to it, is coming soon. Here we go. The subtle and sensitive use of AI. So there's two areas where this film did make use of AI, and AI is just the new part of the world we're living in, but it's also a sensitive topic when it comes to the arts, which is, I feel like, it's an interesting topic for the three of us to target and kind of discuss. So basically, here are the two times that the movie was used. Number one was to use AI to make the film's Hungarian language more accurate. So in this case, it's the accent. So a couple of actors, I think it's part of Adrian Brody and Felicity Jones, when they're talking, they couldn't get that accent done correctly. And when they were talking Hungarian, there are certain terms that the Anglo-Saxon style of English just can't get to. And while they tried making use of it in ADR and post-production to redo the lines, even they couldn't get it right there, the director, the staff didn't, the production crew didn't feel confident enough. So what happened was they went to use AI to kind of upscale that. So that's one type of AI, and we'll discuss it. Like, is this type of AI ethical? And so on and so forth. The second time the AI was used, and I'll bring it up right here, will be the end sequence. So I'm going to read it straight off the verbatim. It said Gen AI, which is called generative AI. It's a type of AI that where you post something in. You've probably seen it in like Google, ChatGPT, and like you can put an image and it'll conjure something. But Gen AI is also used right at the end of the film in a sequence at the Venice Biennale, I'm going to say that name right correctly, but to conjure a series of architectural drawings and finished buildings in the style of the fictional architect. The overall effect is so impressive, you might find yourself headed to Wikipedia to double check if Laszlo Toth even existed. So we're talking about the use of Gen AI, and then we're talking about the use of enhancement AI, and to see if that's something that we're interested in or not. So did I pronounce something wrong, Samir, for you to be laughing? Which one did I pronounce wrong?
Venice. Venice.
Venice. All right. So to give full credit before we kind of go into it, I will give his quote. He said, "It is controversial in the industry to talk about AI, but it shouldn't be. We should be having a very open discussion about the tools AI can provide us with. There's nothing in the film using AI that hasn't been done before. It just makes the process a lot faster. We use AI to create these tiny little details that we didn't have the money or the time to shoot." So I want to kind of open the discussion between the three of us and see, number one, are you okay with one of these AIs? Is the use of AI in this movie completely taking you out there? Like, suddenly now the Brutalist does not deserve any awards. Where are we on the spectrum of this conversation? So, Samir, maybe I'm going to rope you into it first because you had the most say about Brutalist. You've written a full review of it. Shameless plug. You can check it out on cinemadebate.com for a full read through of how you thought. But knowing that there's some AI, and you've commonly, every time we discuss this topic, you've been on the extreme side of, hey, no AI in art whatsoever. But do you think, hey, there is room for it here, or are you still feeling pretty strong that this is the wrong move?
I think I'm still completely against AI. I think there's no place for AI in film, and especially in The Brutalist, I think it's very ironic that they use it, because the use of it, especially in the architecture related scenes, goes against the entire themes related to architecture and how art can be this thing for this empowerment sort of thing, and they can't even they don't even have the money to pay uh, VFX people to do that sort of work for them, which in part is kind of A24's fault. I think they're messing around with AI a lot, especially with Civil War. They did AI posters, and A24 is supposed to be known for being this creatively focused production company, and I don't think they should be moving in the AI direction. Um, as far as the acting goes, I think it's controversial to have Adrian Brody, who's winning Best Actor awards for this film, uh, when he couldn't necessarily do the accent properly, whereas other actors like Timothy Chalamet, even who did so much to get the voice and everything right. I think that's an issue, and I don't want to see a film that has to use AI winning Best Picture at the Oscars, which I think it is the frontrunner for, and I think eventually it probably will still win it. I'm kind of disappointed at the use of AI in this film.
Sam, there's an alternate argument that Pandora's box has been opened. It's open. AI is everywhere now. It's use it or adapt or die mentality. Do you feel like you think that there is use case for it in this case, or are you with Smear that what they should have gone for it at all?
It's kind of it goes both ways. The really thing I agree with Samir is that if this movie is in contention for Best Picture, Asian Boy Best Actor, this is their job to get that accent right. And if they can't do it, then do they deserve all those accolades and awards? Because they said in the article, most of their lines were in Hungarian. That's their job as an actor to get that right. And you just keep working on it. That's it. And even if you get it slightly off, I think at least that's more authentic than using AI to kind of brush it up, because again, then that's not your work that's being shown on the screen. That's computer doing it for you. So it kind of blurs the line of what you deserve in terms of accolades, because you clearly couldn't get over that hurdle. And then you need AI to kind of do it for you, and that it creates a slippery slope, for sure. And for the artwork side, I think it's a cheap excuse that, not enough time, not enough money. You could have found any artist. If they tried hard enough, they could have found the right artist who would have done it for the right price and the right time. I feel like it was kind of a cop out to use that, because, like Samir said, the architecture, design, and everything, it was the focus of this film, and kind of having AI and a computer do that, it kind of goes against what the film is even about. That human aspect of it, that personal aspect that this character brought to his architecture, and then in real life using AI to kind of do the artwork for the designs, and it's that's the opposite of what the movie is. So it is interesting. I feel like it is kind of, you're right, it's opening Pandora's box. It's setting a dangerous precedent, especially because of how well received this movie is. But I do think the translation part of it is honestly worse in this scenario than the art part of it, because they said, the art part was just for that last sequence, like we're in the museum and stuff like that. But that part's not getting awards. Their acting and their performances, that's what's being focused on. And if they're using AI to do their job, then that's just strange. That creates that opens up a bad avenue for other films and future films to kind of be like, okay, then we can use AI to brush up things in our performances, and we'll still get awards and best actor, stuff like that. So that I'm kind of just not really vibing with. I think that's just a mistake.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. It's interesting because I think the reason the discussion is so interesting for this movie is because it's an awards contender. Because I don't know if you guys even noticed, but Kraven the Hunter also was called out recently for using AI in a scene where one of the actresses, it was literally just a still photo, and then the AI the mouth to move, and they added just a line, and it was kind of like a useless line, but they did it. And then even for the MCU, we saw with the Secret Invasion Disney Plus show, that whole opening sequence was AI. And then Samir mentioned for Civil War, the Alex Garland movie that came out last year, used AI for a lot of the posters, a lot of things. So I feel like we will continue to see a lot of AI when it comes to background art, when it comes to anything like that. I think we're going to see a lot of it. The question is, if you're an awards player, if you're someone who is standing on the art of cinema and not just creating, let's say, slop of the week, which is what Kraven Hunter was, what does that look like, and do you get away with it? I did want to give both sides like a chance to speak. That's why I wanted, this editor's voice to stand out. I put his quote because in the end, he's the one who has the job. They made that decision for whatever reason, and now it's working for it. My thing is, if they just stuck with originally whatever Brody and Felicity Jones were saying, would it have been the end of the world? Would anyone even notice? Like, if it would have been a little off, yeah, I guess for the sake of authenticity, if you're really feeling like you have to be a stickler about it, then I can see why you need to go and try something. But the fact that, honestly, I don't know how bad they're not bad actors. I think if they gave a performance and the accent was a little off, or maybe they sounded a little more Ukrainian or versus Hungarian, I feel like it wouldn't have made a big difference to the average casual viewer, and even people who are film critics, like three of us. I don't even know it would have made a difference to us on our first watch through. But I guess if you're from the area, if you're taking it very seriously, then I guess you would be like, hey, this is not the right accent. There's one thing about not getting the words right. Getting the accent right is a very specific thing. It's about an inflection point, and using AI for that feels like not a smart way to kind of use it, because like Samir said, like it kind of, and you said also, Zion, that it kind of muddies up the best picture conversation. But will it actually affect the awards shows? I'm in agreement with you. I don't think it will. I think number one, the votes have already been cast, but number two, before this article drops, I think whatever was going to happen is going to happen now. But I do think it's going to be an interesting conversation going forward. I mean, I do think that for a lot of like the simul translations, like translating English to Spanish, I think people are going to use AI for that more often. But we'll see. Interesting conversation. So from there, I want to talk about the next topic. This week, David Lynch passed away, and obviously he's one of the best. Not one of the best. He's one of the most acclaimed directors in recent memory. He has a very specific visual language. He has a very specific style of directing that's been very influential. We've seen a lot of directors, from Steven Spielberg to almost everyone in the industry, from actors and directors, have all given kind of their props to Lynch for kind of being out there, for being so experimental, especially early in his career, and for always pushing the boundary of what cinema can be. So I want to kind of open up the panel and talk about, your favorite movie from David Lynch's catalog, or television series, whatever, if it's a piece of work that he did that you resonated with, feel free to share with the with the audience. So you want to go Zion first, maybe? What did you favorite Lynch project?
Yeah, and yeah, he's definitely a very like experimental kind of filmmaker. All his films have a very unique style and vision that that okay, this is his imprint on the movie. And of course that speaks volumes to kind of his skill and his technical craft that he brought to all his movies. I guess my favorite of his would be, I know it's a generic choice, but it would probably be Mulholland Drive. I've only really seen the 3 to 4 of his movies, but it's really between that and Blue Velvet. And I think just the way Mulholland Drive was, for me, narratively, it was just much more engaging and interesting. And I feel like it was also, from his other projects, the most, not, I wouldn't say safe, but like the most similar to like a regular style film. It's like, I feel like it's not as experimental or things like most out there like an Eraserhead would be. So that kind of, I just vibe with that more, and I enjoy the narrative from beginning to end. I feel like that's probably my favorite David Lynch film, but he has obviously a great catalog and obviously TV shows. Like I said, Twin Peaks, some people say it's the greatest television show of all time. So he has just his hand in a lot of different worlds in the entertainment space. So it's really a toss-up based on what kind of speaks out to you. And for me, Mulholland Drive is probably my favorite of them.
Samir, what about you?
Yeah, I think he's definitely a visionary. I also haven't seen all too much of his work, but just to keep it different, I guess I'll say I like Eraserhead just because it's it's such a unique, surrealist film. I mean, a movie like that made today, like I can't even picture something like that being made, or how it would be received. Um, just a crazy, just crazy the way he kind of changed the game, and I'm a pretty big fan of his philosophy more than just film. I guess there's a lot of clips going around now about uh, his philosophy on life and stuff, and I think that's really interesting. Um, and I like parts of his Dune, parts that I've seen. I haven't seen the entire thing, but it looks pretty interesting. I do got to get through a lot more of it. Like Zion said, I've heard that Twin Peaks is like one of the greatest projects ever done. So definitely got to get through it.
Yeah, I think with David Lynch, like we talk about someone who's made almost a huge impact on cinema and television. He's one of those people who has that one, like he's like synonymous with so many things. And I wanted to take a minute to talk about Twin Peaks because you guys are 100% right, and that's what I was going to bring up as like my example. This is a show that even if you haven't seen it, the influence of this show on television in general is crazy. And there's some creators that have actually who have said, I have we've influenced from Twin Peaks. And I'll just list some of the shows: The Sopranos, X Files, Mr. Robot, Fringe, True Detective. These are all shows that have to direct their showrunners. Even Lost, they've all said that we've been directly influenced by Twin Peaks and what's the other one? Fire Walk with Me, which is like the prequel movie to Twin Peaks. So that's the kind of stuff that I think that we're going to remember. You know, it's interesting thing about a legacy when an artist or creator dies. The legacy that he left behind, the movies, the television shows, that's always available for people to check out. So even if you haven't been introduced to David Lynch until after now that he's passed away, for the audience, you can go ahead and check out his work, you know, and see what kind of he brought to the table, to the point where I don't know if you guys remember the Fablemans, the Steven Spielberg movie that came out a couple of years ago. The final scene of that, David Lynch cameos himself. I think it might have been his final time actually in a movie acting himself, and he kind of plays like the hero to the Steven Spielberg character, who's the young Steven Spielberg. He was looking up to this director who gave him his first role, and that person in the chair was David Lynch, and that was an interesting part of that, the end of that movie. But yeah, that's the life of David Lynch, and definitely we recommend checking out his work. So from there, we go to our final topic of the day, and that is our what to watch, the Faruqi Bros recommendations of the week. First one, I think, of 2025 we're doing. So it could be a movie, it could be a TV show, it could be a video game, it could really be anything. So the question is, what are we recommending? Question. So who's gonna go first?
I guess Samir can go first since he has lots of recommendations.
Big recommendation.
I guess I do have a lot of recommendations. I gotta decide which one to pick. Just to start, I'll recommend Eraserhead first, just because David Lynch thing. But I'll also recommend Lars and the Real Girl, which I think is a great film with Ryan Gosling. But I really can't say that much about the premise. You just got to see it, you know.
You got to see it to believe
it. You really can't say too much about it. If you try to tell somebody the premise, they'll think you're crazy.
I don't know about you. You have to have something.
Let's see. I don't know. Nothing good these days.
These days I'm oldie but goodie.
Let's see. I guess you can go next.
You know what? I recommend George the Jungle. Think about it. It's pretty good. Think about it.
Nah, that has to be fake. You have to be lying. That's not a real recommendation.
That's my recommendation. It's George the Jungle.
Nah.
I'm standing on business on that one. Think about it.
No.
All right. The second recommendation, which honestly I saw a clip of it on Instagram. I didn't even see it on the actual film. You know, this Bicentennial Man actually could have to get a second chance. It wasn't that bad.
That's because Robin Williams, he's just a goat, you know?
He's peak, yeah. It's called Bicentennial Man. It's Robin Williams, you know, like it's good. It's good. So this, I feel like I did not like it in my first watch, but I saw a couple of scenes of it. I'm like, you know what? Maybe they were going for something and I wasn't ready for it. So, but I'm ready for it now. So, Bicentennial Man. Also, NFL playoffs today. That I recommend watching that. Ravens versus Bills. That'd be a good game. Now it's Samir's turn. See what he gives me. now it's Jan's turn.
I guess since we were talking about shows like Twin Peaks and stuff, I'll recommend a show I saw last year, which is Hannibal. As you know, I'm a huge Mads Mikkelsen fan. And this project, I think he was just absolutely incredible in the show. It's one of the few shows where I thought it's a perfect 5 out of 5 show for me. From all the ones I've seen based on Daredevil, Breaking Bad, True Detective, all of them. This one is like right there at the top. So I have my top 3 favorite shows of all time. And between him and I think it was Hugh Dancy who played Will Graham, who's like the detective. They did such an incredible job together as like the 1-2. It was just from start to finish an incredible show. It was shot well. I think if you watch on Amazon Prime, it has a weird encoding where it's like running smooth motion or something. So that's kind of annoying. But once you kind of your eyes adjust to it, then it's not so bad. And I think just the acting performances and the story is just absolutely incredible, and definitely one of my top tier series of all time.
There you go. So what do you guys think about the Wolfman? If you have seen it, and definitely give us your opinion on the use of AI in film in general. I think it's an interesting topic that will definitely be talked about more as we got to go along. And then your favorite David Lynch projects. Let us know in the comments. We're definitely interested in hearing how the director influenced you in your journey with art. So from myself, from Zayan, and from Samir, we're the Faruqi Bros. We'll see you next time. Peace out.